I'm Greg Vermalm, and I started at St. Paul's in 1993, so that would be 27 years ago, I guess.
My name is Luke Meltz, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator here at St. Paul's. I've been on staff for coming up on a year. I've been attending / a member at St. Paul's since July of 2019.
Always remember giving. So as a child, I remember going to church and having a few coins that my parents had gave me to put in the Sunday school offering, and then I remember it was probably about the third grade that I started getting a pig and a cow from my family, and as part of that, we had to open up our own checking account. But also, what comes with animals was revenue, and so I remember my parents talking about starting to give money back as a result of the earnings I was making, and so we opened up a checking account. And I remember it was about the only check I ever wrote every month was to our local church, but that was really my start into giving, and have really gave ever since then. But
My earliest memories of talking about giving at church were when I was like in middle school. We had consecration Sunday at the church that I was at. That's what it was called. And people would give their testimonies around giving and talk about how they saw God's sort of multiplication of what they provided from their generosity. And my parents always gave like with a check. There was always a check every week. I don't know how much it was for, or if it was, we never talked about 10% or anything like that. But moving through high school and college, if I would go visit a church, I would give whatever cash was in my wallet. In 2020, there's not a whole lot of cash anywhere.
There's also not a whole lot of offering plates.
So. Yeah, and not a whole lot of passing things around.
Find that giving generously doesn't occur overnight. It's a process, and so although I've given since third grade, I would be the first to admit when I got out of college and Jolene and I got married, we weren't tithing at that point in time, but really it was constantly looking at how to grow each year and move toward tithing, and so it took several years to reach the point that we were tithing to the church, and have then it's kind of been easy, if you may, is to continue to tithe along the way, but it certainly took some time to get there.
Coming to St. Paul's, I had like an adult paycheck and I was excited to give, but I gave sort of what was comfortable for me. I was like, oh, this is a good line item amount, and nobody's really gonna, I don't know, no one's gonna fact check me on my 10%, right? It's like between me and God, which it is for sure, but increased my giving a little bit more, and I stepped up my game, and I found that it felt really good to do that.
It's allowed my family and so forth to further grow in my own faith and kind of understanding of God.
Right now, my like big focus in terms of finances is saving for seminary. So I put away money every month, and sometimes I'm worried about like, what if I don't have enough when I get to seminary? I think about it really a lot, actually, because I'm obsessed with budgeting. Like, I really am obsessed with budgeting and like saving and mint and like all that stuff, and it could have been made up by the money that I tithe, but there's just like a faithfulness piece that, like, if I am generous now, God will take care of what is to come in terms of finances and needs. I'm living in a season of abundance, and I know that perhaps as a seminary student, I will not live in the same season.
Some of the funds that we give to St. Paul's goes back to organizations like MCOR that I know are supporting the greater cause that I can't personally get involved with as much as I may like, but I know that avenue is there, that when I see a tragic event occur, that MCOR, that some of my money is really helping cover that.
It gives you a sense of like ownership, and I don't mean ownership in a sense of like you're paying money to be part of something. Ownership as in like over the mission and like helping us reach our goals and reach people.
Now that I'm a part of the finance committee, I really look at church from a numbers perspective as well as kind of the way everybody else views church, but it's very interesting for me to look at kind of the operations of St. Paul's and the greater church as a whole, one thing I've observed of St. Paul's is we do a great job of kind of bootstrapping together and figuring out ways to be creative to get ministry done.
I see it as kind of a sense of responsibility and knowing when things happen that I am not capable of doing. So I'm not capable of reaching children with the love of Christ at the same level as Jamie. And I am not capable of imagining a year's worth of sermon series that engage people at different points through in their wherever they are in their life, like Pastor Laura, Pastor Sandra, etc. But like my giving is part of what helps others access those gifts.
I grew up in the Methodist Church, so I have a loyalty to kind of Methodism and everything that it's done over the years. And so I also appreciate kind of what the Methodist Church in totality has done, kind of beyond even UMCOR and things like that, and feel like, you know, there's greater good. And again, things that are being done to expand Christianity that is very important, but I can't begin to directly impact, nor can St. Paul's.
We also have talked before in staff meetings about encouraging folks to give until it heals, and that has been a good mindset for me. Thinking again to like living in a season of abundance, stressing about a line item on my budget is not the same thing as giving generously, and truly believing in the work that we do at St. Paul's.
I guess my prayer would be is we look at the uncertainty that occurred in 2020 and then looking at 2021 of not knowing either kind of what's ahead of us, especially I think for the first quarter or 6 months, is kind of what is that rock or what's the thing that's been a stabilizer to you in 2020 through all the unique things that have occurred since March in particular. And as you're looking at 2021 and planning both your financial needs and your kind of personally what you want to invest your time and energy into, look at those organizations that have been beneficial to you here the last 9 months and know that they're going to be center of kind of where your future or where 2021 focus should be, both with your time and your gifts.
Give generously. Woo! Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Give us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and glory forever. Amen.